It's a pleasure to be here today for the 2023 Governance, Risk and Compliance Showcase. I'm Justin Pritchard, a Managing Director with Baird based in London. And it's a real pleasure to have with me today Juan Gil Rabadan from Nalanda. Juan, thanks for taking the time today. I'm going to pass to you now to do maybe a little bit of an introduction and tell us a little bit about Nalanda and what it is that you guys do in the markets that you address.
Okay, thanks a lot for this opportunity. It was my pleasure. In terms of Nalanda, we found the company in year 2000, and we provide mission-critical supply chain management software to help companies and digitize all the compliance operation for contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, and within this supply network, we try to join all those companies through our software, capturing and collecting lots of documents to complete the compliance processes around. So far, we have 1,000 of big clients, and then they join about 30,000 suppliers across a wide range of industries, including construction, energy, food, and logistics.
We've got some topics we're going to cover today, Juan. And some of the stuff was particularly around sort of ESG, and particularly ESG within sort of supply chains. Obviously, one of those key focuses we know that a lot of clients are looking for. So, in that respect, what solutions have sort of been most successful from your perspective in terms of delivering meaningful impact?
Since the very beginning, we tried to focus on ESG and basically introducing transparency, reducing risk, and a focus on accidents and a better control of the governance of the different companies that are joining Nalanda. So with our SaaS software, they interact between each other, and we collect not only the documents of each particular company, but also of all their suppliers on the supply chains. So we evaluate, we make ratings, performance indicators, government, sustainability, data protection, and we try to focus on all the compliance area of the different companies. It's probably our base of the business.
Excellent. And when you look at the sort of tide of key regulatory changes, are there any that are particularly driving sort of an uptake in the solutions from an ESG perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. We basically focus on the main regulation, on all the local laws of each country. And of course, regulation is pushing and accelerating all the business community through all those complaint and due diligence requirements. So there is a lot of regulation to complete things, liability. And so there is the need to monitor all the suppliers to avoid, like, for example, in Spain, all the debts that they have with the government. And also, we find lots of risk and accidents on there, for example, in the construction or energy industry. And there is also very strong regulation in terms of health and safety and sustainability and the prevention of occupational risk. In terms of compliance, it's increasingly important to prevent drug trafficking and the financial all of the international terms that we've been seeing on the last years through all the procedures and compliance resources that all the big companies are introducing around. And then in the second tier, all their subcontractors and suppliers is also completing those compliance procedures and rules. Also, the international's ISO regulation are requiring the companies the use of a system to manage all the compliance supply chains, which is also an important driver and a tailwind for us. Recently in Europe, we are also accelerating the implementation of the electronic invoicing, which is also another regulation accelerating and also improving the compliance of the different companies with some issues that they are completing. This is also some of the products of Nalanda, and we are focusing on those solutions.
Excellent. And are you able to sort of track and monitor and see, once people have been put in a Nalanda system in place, they're seeing material levels of improvement in some of those issues and the things that they're tracking within their supply chain? You talk about sort of health and safety incidences, et cetera, is be able to demonstrate the value that the platform brings to the client.
Yeah. There are, we find also some corruption cases. Companies are moving to a more proactive compliance scheme and due diligence compliance model on their companies. We have clients who has some incident in corruption, and then they are probably the most aggressive on those procedures and recurses, focusing on dedicating to pursuing high levels of compliance within their companies. Not only sometimes within the company, but also in some extreme cases, they care also about suppliers and even more with clients and partners, because sometimes you're doing a joint venture and you don't realize that probably your partner has some compliance issues around, and it's important, this analysis. And
are you seeing when you think about that sort of reactive versus predictive compliance, are you seeing that? So are you seeing a demand shift from that sort of reactive piece versus that the move towards sort of a preemption, people trying to get ahead of the issues versus waiting for the issue to arise?
Yeah, so depending on the size of the company, but the biggest company are more proactive, and they are moving on this preemption scheme. So they are introducing, because they understand that we need to avoid all these compliance issues, and they are driving and moving around all their companies and all their supply chains and all the nodal of this company around. So the second or third tier of those subcontractors are moving with the tailwind of his first and main client. So, but the big ones are really moving on a very preemptive scheme. So that's great for us.
And then when you think through things like point solutions versus sort of an enterprise suite, are you seeing clients prioritizing or looking for sort of a one-stop shop enterprise solution, so a best of suite of solutions? Or are you seeing clients wanting more sort of point solutions and therefore having perhaps a series of point solutions to come up with something that may be best of breed?
Yeah, good point. So we find that in different industries, you have different behavior. Some of them are on a very high level in terms of digitization. But in some sectors, we find, like, for example, construction or renewable energy, there was a huge lack of internet connection on this project. So they didn't used to introduce software on their industries. And now we have the opportunity with different channels to introduce technology and digitization. So they are moving really fast and introducing 3D BIM solution, virtual augmented reality, cost management software, time and access control, invoicing, document digitization, electronic signatures, everything about compliance, environmental, supplier powers, and preventive audit. And in these terms, we try to include a huge portfolio, which is interesting because you are building like a strong community, a strong network of different supply chains of the industries and connected with each other, because we are acquiring and adding new companies. So far, we complete 4 companies within the portfolio of Nalanda, and some of them are introducing those particular solution that we miss in the portfolio. So we believe that in this community is much more useful to have a great suite, an umbrella of solution and products around, instead of focusing on different hubs around. So I believe it's much more valuable to have a big bunch of solutions around.
Interesting. And when you think of what's in the pipeline and what's coming? Is there any sort of areas where you're thinking about your product development and how that might relate to kind of the market opportunity?
Yeah, we are focusing on supplier validation before starting any new projects. We want to be in advance, more preemptive, and we are completing this big interesting product, which is also international. So we are moving in on different countries. Each country has different regulation, and we have a very flexible approach to customize on each country for these regulations. So we're very focusing on this supplier validation service to share with the big contractors and completing our models. We are starting with the big international companies, but then we complete, and this the real value when we complete with local companies in South America, Europe, or any other country. But the network is really big, and we have a lot of white and blue space around to grow.
Brilliant. Well, look, Juan, thank you for taking the time today to talk us through some of your views on some of the key topics in the GRC space, and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity.